grand jury materials or child sexual abuse materials or undermines our national security. And I think everybody of good conscience and common sense would say, of course you have to do that. But here we are. So the discharge petition got its 218th signature, and it is going to go forward. It is going to pass because it only takes 218. And we know that the Democrats have disregarded all these concerns, and they're going to move it forward anyway. So all the people of good conscience here say, we've registered our concerns, we stated our opposition as long as possible, but we're also for maximum transparency. So what am I to do as a leader in a situation like this? I call my counterpart in the Senate, Leader Thune, and I talked him through this with him and shared our deep concerns. And of course, they share those concerns as well. And so I'm very confident that when this moves forward in the process, if and when it is processed in the Senate, which there's no certainty that that will be, that they will take the time methodically to do what we have not been allowed to do in the House, to amend this discharge petition and to make sure that these protections are there. The authors of the discharge did not allow us to do that here. That's the rules here. But in the Senate, they can correct it. So under that circumstance, because of that, we know there's serious deficiencies. We know that the work of our colleagues in the Senate can address that and will. They're very conscientious and concerned, as we are, about all this. As we've insisted from the very beginning, Republicans are the only party trying to make a material difference in ensuring maximum transparency. Oh, by the way, I'll just tell you, I put the bill on the floor for unanimous consent last Wednesday night. And guess who objected to it? The Democrats, okay? If this is so urgent and they were so concerned about getting this done and seeing justice be done and all that, they would not have blocked the request, okay? This is about politics. They blocked our unanimous consent motion to expedite their bill and made us waste all this additional time so they could have a show vote today. Republicans are ready to get the job done, to move forward so we can continue to get on to these important issues of dealing with what the American people demand and deserve for us to deal with. And so I want to leave you with this thought. Everybody should think long and hard about who here is acting truthfully, honestly, and in good faith. It is not the Democrat Party that has obfuscated and blatantly lied for the last 4 years about all these things. It is not the Democrats who shut down the government for their own selfish political purposes. It is not the Democrats who blocked the passage of this discharge a week ago because they wanted to have a political moment. It is the Republicans who are acting in good faith, and I believe the American people are going to see that and understand it. I'm going to vote to move this forward. I think it could be close to a unanimous vote because everybody here, all the Republicans, want to go on record to show they're for maximum transparency, but they also want to note that we're demanding that this stuff get corrected before it is ever moves through the process and is completed. I sincerely hope my Democrat colleagues will show the same level of urgency and enthusiasm when it comes to tackling the real issues facing the country that we got to get to, and that's what we really wanted to talk about this morning. Affordability.
Call on the president to just release the full Epstein files. He doesn't even need Congress to have this vote.
Well, the president's made very clear his position over the last few days. His truth post over the weekend and what he said. I mean, he had a press gaggle yesterday. He said the same thing. He says release all the files. He's been saying that. What he was counting on and what we were insistent upon is using the processes of Congress, as I've explained here in great detail this morning, to do it in the right way so that it's not haphazard. And Congress has a role to do that. The Oversight Committee is the appropriate place for this to be done, and that is what is happening right now, as you've all seen. And so we preferred that route. And by the way, as I mentioned, that route is more comprehensive than anything the discharge petition would accomplish anyway, because it didn't even mention the Epstein files and some of these other things, I mean the estate files. So we want the process to play out. We want it to be done in the right way. We want to do it in a way that doesn't jeopardize our legal system and doesn't inflict more harm on victims. And the president is resolute on that, as we have been, and that's why we oppose this gambit from the beginning. Yes.
Do you acknowledge that by voting for this petition today, that is a reversal for you, that you could have put this on the floor months ago and may not have even needed to have a discharge petition if you had supported it months ago?
It's not a reversal, as I just explained. We had big problems with the discharge from the moment it was filed. We talked with the authors. There was lots of people that went and pleaded with them to fix it so that everybody could be together, because we've been for maximum transparency. But again, there's a reason you have rules and processes here to ensure that this is not done haphazardly. And I was not satisfied with that. But I've been for maximum transparency for the very beginning. We wanted the process to play out. So, yes.
I understand where you're coming from with your concerns with the discharge petition. I also understand your want for transparency in this case. You've been very clear on both those fronts for weeks. So is the reason why you're now deciding to vote for this resolution because President Trump directly said Republicans should vote for this? Because this has been your position all along, and you've made it clear you weren't in support of this resolution.
If and when the discharge reached the 218th signature, it will be forced. And the forcing mechanism here prevents the very deliberate, professional, careful manner in which Congress is supposed to do this. I lament that. That's why I'd been opposed to it all along. But having now forced the vote, none of us want to go on record and in any way be accused of not being for maximum transparency. So the only intellectually consistent position to have right now, the only way to ensure that both those things are true at the same time, is to allow for everyone to vote their conscience and to go on record to say, of course, we're for maximum transparency. Now, I'll tell you, there's a handful of Republicans, Judiciary Committee members, and a few others who are really struggling, as I have been, about whether or not they could even vote yes today because of this, because we don't have an absolute guarantee that this will be fixed in the Senate. I have a high degree of confidence in that, and that's why. That's why I'll be voting yes today. And I've talked about that in great detail. We had an hour and a half long conference call on Sunday with Judiciary Committee members who are really, really concerned. I mean, they're all for maximum transparency, but they're really, really concerned about protecting the victims, and I am as well, and that's why we have gone through this whole long process. Last one, Olivia.
On that, James Blair today at a Bloomberg event said that they're looking at ways to send millions of Americans checks from tariff dividend revenue, but without Congress being involved. Do you have concerns about them not running that sort of process through Congress?
Well, I'm not sure that's possible, and James Blair and I will have some intense fellowship about that, I'm sure. He's a good friend. We collaborate on strategy all the time, but this is an idea, I think, that makes sense. The President was talking about it as recently as yesterday. I think what I heard him say, and I haven't talked to him about it because he and I have both been so busy the last 24 hours, I'll see him in a little while, but I think what I heard him say yesterday is he's thinking about something maybe midway into next year when the tariff revenue is realized and we can figure out what that looks like. But I think it would require an act of Congress, so we'll have to see how. I'm not sure what's being proposed. So it's sort of a
on your doubts about getting specifically into the substance here, reading through the bill though, I guess I'm confused because the bill specifically says that the Attorney General may withhold or redact portions related to child sexual abuse materials as defined in the law, anything jeopardizing federal investigations. It specifically says they can withhold anything containing personal identifiable information of victims' personal medical files. We know the survivors are comfortable with that. All of these things are actually in this bill. That's why I'm confused.
Let me give you an example. We could be up here for a long time. I'll litigate it with you.
Let's do it. Like, what specifically is missing?
So the first one you mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's HRS 581. This is the discharge. Okay. It says on page 5, redact anything that depicts or depicts or contains child sexual abuse material, CSAM, as defined under 18 U.S.C. 2256. Okay. All right. So you go to 18 U.S.C. 2256. Definitions of the chapter. Nowhere in this section, okay, go look it up, all right, does it contain the definition of child sexual abuse material. So I used to litigate federal cases, and I would challenge statutes in court, okay? The language is very important and very precise. If it's not listed here and this were to become law, child sexual abuse materials are not included. They're not included for redaction, which means the Attorney General and someone there, if they interpret the discharge in the statute that it passes directly and literally, as they're supposed to do, they're required to do under the law, then you're going to have things that would qualify under child sexual abuse materials. You have child pornography included in the distribution of this stuff. We can't go for that.
But it's up to the Attorney General.
No, it's not up to it's not up to the Attorney General because the way it's listed in the document. No, it's not. It's not because it doesn't reference the right code section. So we could go through every one of these things. We have had a small army of lawyers going through it because I want to make sure that all of my concerns, because I read it the first time initially and I thought, whoa, this is way out of bounds. We have in fact, we'll put on the speaker.gov. I'll put it on the website here when we leave. You'll see the summary of the legal analysis, and it goes through point by point, and it points to the specific sections in the discharge. Guys, we're not making this up, and you can take it to your counsel at your outlet's offices and have them review it, and they'll tell you the same thing. This should have been done in a much more careful manner, and it was not. And I'm going to point out again, when the authors were asked to fix it, they said they weren't interested in doing that. Okay, why? Because this is a raw and obvious political exercise. Again, I'm just going to leave you with this question. You should go ask them all. If you were so concerned about the Epstein files and protecting the victims, why didn't you do a darn thing about it for the 4 years of the Biden administration? All this stuff was sitting in a warehouse, and nobody said a word about it. They didn't care. Now they're doing it. We all know why, because they're trying to attack President Trump. That's
ACA
it.
question.
Thank you. Thank you.